Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today we're on episode 458. That means that there's a lot to listen to if this is your first episode. You got podcast episodes that'll last you a long time if you want to start back at number one with me and climb your way up to where we're at today, 458. Of course, by the time you get to 458, they might be 558 by then. Who knows? As far as I know at the moment, I'm just going to keep on going and keep on trucking. But we're on episode 458 today, titled Move Beyond Success and Significance, Leave a Legacy. And if you've been following along, you already know we're on part 25 of 31 this week, which is actually chapter 24. In my series, my 31-part series I'm doing on my wife's book, Rhea's Story, The Ladder of Influence. 5 steps for climbing to the next level and beyond. So chapter 24, today's episode is focused on, that title of that chapter is, it's the 5th step. Influence based on contribution of service over time. So I'll give you a quick recap of the steps, just in case this is your first episode. You may want to back up and start back at part 1 of this 31-part series. But basically, we started out with control of self. That was step 1. Control of self. So it's influenced based on control of self is literally the first step. The second step was influence based on character development. Third step was influence based on competency development. The 4th step, which we just wrapped up last week, was influenced based on a commitment to developing others. And then again, as I just said, this 5th step, the final step on the ladder of influence, is influenced based on contribution of service over time. So you start out controlling yourself, building your character, developing your competency, developing others. And now this 5th step is about doing it at a really high level for a really long time, basically. In simple terms, that's what we're moving to as we dive in or climb up to this 5th step. Rhea says, success is about achieving what we want in life. There's nothing wrong with that, but something greater is possible. She continues, some who achieve success will feel the call to move beyond success for themselves and truly become significant in the lives of others. Some will choose to do this for a few others as they work on the 4th step. Not as the few others work on the 4th step, but as you, the leader, some people will be working on their 4th step. And while they're working on the 4th step, they're going to be significant in the lives of others because now they're developing others. That's what I was trying to say. Maybe if I didn't say it so clear. That's where you're committed to developing others while you're on the 4th step. And you have mastered control of yourself. You mastered character development in your life. Doesn't mean you're finished with any of these things. Remember, they never end if you've been listening along. And then you mastered competency. And in the 4th step, you were working on, and maybe you have already mastered a commitment to developing others. However, some will master the 4th step and then contribute a lifetime of service helping others climb. This is how a legacy is created. And that's what Rhea and I are working on. We're working on this 5th step. We're focused on contributing a lifetime of service, helping others climb. So I'm doing this for free. Like I said at the beginning, episode 458. I've done 458 free episodes. I don't care how many people's listening. I know there's people listening because they reach out to me, and I can see the count if I go look. Really doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter who's listening or what's happening. I'm doing it anyway. But that's how you leave a legacy, not for someone, but in someone. We're so privileged, Rhea and I, get to speak all over the country, and we'll go someplace they ain't never heard of, ain't never been, don't know anybody works there, and we get there and they telling us about they've been reading our books or listening to the podcast, or watching our YouTube videos. Don't forget about the Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel. And by the way, when this series is over, if our schedule will permit us, we're going to plan on, and we also got to get coordinated with the folks we want to interview, but we're going to plan on doing, hopefully going to be able to squeeze in 5 or 10 interviews with other folks and add them to the video channel or the YouTube channel under the Real People Getting Real Results playlist. There's over 30 interviews there already. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you go check out those videos. The audios are here on the podcast. You just have to go find them. You can find them easily if you go to the YouTube channel and look for the playlist for interviews. You can find the audio interview, or you can watch the videos under the Real People Getting Real Results playlist. But hopefully when we finish up this series, we will have some ready to go, and we can roll into hopefully 5 to 10 weeks of interviews with different people that we've met since I've been doing this series, people that reached out, maybe follow the podcast, who've been reading books, getting results, climbing the ladder personally and professionally, that sort of stuff. If you watch some of those interviews or been on some of those interviews, you know what it's all about. And if you're one of those people who've been listening or reading my books, getting results, but we never really talked, reach out to me, 334-728-4143. Talk to me. Maybe you'd like to get on the series and do an interview with me and help me motivate and inspire other people. Maybe you're working on climbing on to level 4 or even past 4, and you're working here on level 5, and that could be a way that you could actually contribute. It'd be part of your lifetime of service. It'd just be an hour of it, but hey, every minute adds up to all the hours, and all the hours add up to all the days, and all the days add up to weeks and months and years. You know how it works. But if you want to, reach out, let me know. You can text me or give me a call. But legacy is not about leaving something for someone. I told my son Eric his whole life growing up, don't count on me leaving you some stuff. I may very well do that, but don't count on it. Don't count I'm going to leave you some land, or I'm going to leave you a house, or I'm going to leave you some money. Don't count on nothing from me. I want him to be completely independent. And he's been doing very well, and he's reached that level in his life. Because I didn't want to leave something for him. I want to leave something in him. And I'm not the only one that's contributed to who he is as a person. There's been a lot of people. But me as a parent and as a father, that was always my mission. Help him be completely independent. Same thing with Rhea. I want her to be completely independent. She does not need me. My son Eric does not need me. Either one of those people, if you know them, it's obvious. That's what I wanted. Because you don't want people to be dependent on you. Not if you're a high caliber, high impact, high character person. You don't want people to be dependent on you. You want them to be independent. If you're independent and they're independent, you can go to a completely higher level and build strong relationships. And then together you can choose, both of the folks or multiple people can choose to become interdependent. So you got dependent, independent, interdependent. Dependent means I need you to get what I want. Independent means I need me to get what I want. Interdependent means together we can both have more if we're willing to work together for each other on a common mission, whatever that might be. But step 5, contribution to serving others, is about a lifetime of service. And basically, that's a little tricky word, because you might not have been there the first half of your life, might be the second half. Basically what it means is once you master that 4th step, commitment to developing others, that you decide to climb on up to the 5th step, which means the rest of your life, the lifetime you have remaining, you're going to be in service of helping others climb. And if you truly are, just like I am and Rhea is, John Maxwell is, Stephen Covey was before he passed, Dr. Covey, anybody doing this stuff, that's why we become lifetime students, because we've chose to make a contribution of service over time in our lane. Remember, we talked last time about being in our lane. So if I want to serve you well, I got to be developing me constantly and continuously. I mean, there's a book I read recently called Traction by Gino Wickman. Clay York out in Rockwall, Texas area recommended that to me. And a lot of my clients I've noticed over the years use that content, which is about EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And ever since I read that book, which ain't been long ago, I read it because I bought it for my son Eric for his birthday in April. And if I'm going to give him a book, I need to read it. And I've been wanting to read it anyway, so that was just a catalyst to cause me to read it. But that book's got some really, really good how to lead a business. Really, it's how to manage a business. I talk about leadership, but that book, primarily it's about management of an organization. But it's very precise. It's almost, if you're familiar with Lean, it's like standard work for managing an organization. The key to what makes what's in that book effective is all the stuff that Rhea and I and other people like us talk about. All the personal growth, all the leadership development, all that type of development allows what's in that book to make someone be a very, very high impact manager of things and processes. And then also, if you marry it with the kind of stuff Rhea and I talk about, that person is also a high impact leader of people. And that's when you're killing it in life. When you're a high impact manager of things and processes, and you're a high impact leader of people. So if you had a high level, upper level CEO or business owner, and you're not familiar with Traction by Gino Wickman, highly, highly recommend that book. But the only reason I know about that book is because I'm committed to a lifetime of service of helping other people. So I'm constantly reading and growing. And that's just one that I read recently. And now I tell everybody about it because it's like a missing link, missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of business top leaders and business owners. They're missing what's in that book. But also what I do know, which is good, is a lot of people I do know that are not familiar with that book. They're doing a lot of what's already in that book, but they don't have it. It's not coordinated, and they're missing some components in that book. One of the components is he talks about the people analyzer. I ain't going to get into a lesson on this, but that section, that component about the people analyzer, if you didn't do anything else, if you're into leadership development, I highly recommend you get that book just to read that component about people development, which is the second component out of 6 he talks about in that book. The first one he's talking about vision. And for the people analyzer, the people component to really work, you got to establish your core values and that sort of stuff in the vision component, which is the first one. But anyway, just want to throw that out there to you as an example. That's me trying to leave a legacy. And what I mean when I say that's me trying to leave a legacy is just me trying to develop myself so that I can continue to pour into people so that at some point, maybe it becomes a legacy. I've invested in so many people and made such a difference in so many people's lives. That's the goal. And I figure most of the people I touch, I'll never know it. You know, I often say, I got a quote in one of my books that I wrote, Defining Influence. I wrote this in there. I said, when you touch a life, you don't always feel it. That's especially true if you're doing podcasts or making videos, writing newsletters like I do on LinkedIn. And by the way, you may want to go check out some of those. If you see any that starts with the title, The Story Behind the Story, you may want to check those out. I'm going to have some really personal stuff in there. The first one I did comes out on June the 10th. I post them on my new LinkedIn newsletter, Blue Collar Leadership Tips newsletter. You can go there and subscribe. Then if you do, it'll come to your email box. You won't have to get on LinkedIn to find it, but you can go find it there. But the title was The Story Behind the Story, My Son Hated Me. And Eric that I was talking about earlier, I talk about in there how he hated me. And I did a post on this recently on Facebook. And he actually got on there and replied and said something. So I took his reply, put it with what I had written, and along with some podcast episode, one where I talked about him hate me. And then I later did an interview with him where me and him both talked about him hate me, and he shared his side of it. And a couple other things I shared in there to turn that into a pretty cool newsletter. But anyway, that was the first one that has that title, The Story Behind the Story. So the first story is a lowercase s. The last story is an uppercase S for my last name. It's just a play on that. And then the colon and then whatever the subtitle for that newsletter is. But anyway, I'm going to be sprinkling those in. I may do several in a row, and then I may flip-flop back and forth. But whenever you see that title, if you follow the newsletter, you'll know it's some kind of personal story in there from my life. Might be good, might be bad, but it'll have some good lessons in there and some motivational and inspirational content to hopefully go along with that story. And it's just part of this right here that we're talking about. I don't have to do that either. All those newsletters, I'm not getting paid to do that. I don't have to tell all these stories for free. I just want to, because I'm working on step 5. Contribution of service over time. So Rhea says legacy is about continuously making a difference in the lives of others year after year after year after year. And that's the goal. If you're on step 5, that has become the goal. And you got to go up through all these other 4 steps. And even if you never choose to step on 5, but if you can get to where you're working on mastering 4, you've become a phenomenal human being. But I'm just here to tell you, Rhea and I are here to tell you, there's something higher. You got to sacrifice to get there. It ain't going to happen by accident. It ain't going to happen because you got a lot of money or a nice house or a big bank account. It's going to happen because you're willing to sacrifice your time, get outside your comfort zone, write a book, make videos, speak to people, public speaking, on a stage, do a podcast, whatever you can grow yourself into so that you can have a bigger audience and impact more lives. All that sacrifice, whatever that takes, that's what you got to do to be working on the 5th step. And this is the first of 5 podcast episodes, part of this series where I'm going to be talking about the 5th step. So I ain't talking about all of it today, but talking about a lot of it. And Rhea goes on to say what I've been touching on. Legacy, again, not legacy meaning you leaving something for somebody. Legacy as in you're leaving something in somebody. Meaning they're gonna act in a certain way, behave a certain way, believe a certain thing, do certain things because they knew you. Your influence became embedded, some of it, not all of it, bits and pieces that they pulled away from you, and they started living their life a certain way because of your influence. She says, legacy, Rhea says, legacy requires you to sacrifice endlessly for the rest of your life. You stop sacrificing, you done stepped off of step 5. You stop being willing to sacrifice your time, energy, and effort to help other people. You're welcome to do it. But as soon as you do it, you ain't on step 5 no more. You back down to 4 or below. I'll give you an example of somebody who ain't stepped off of it is mine and Rhea's friend and mentor for the last 10 years, Mr. Jimmy Collins. You might have heard him in episode 119, 121, and 123. I interviewed him at his home several years ago. But Jimmy was former president and COO, Chief Operations Officer at Chick-fil-A. He just, May 5th of 2025, he turned 89 years old. I met him when he was 79, back in 2015. He's been our friend and mentor 10 years now. Don't miss that. I said and mentor. 10 years. I can call him up right now. I could stop his podcast, call him up, and me and him will chat. I don't bother him too much, but I do call him up to check on him. But I'm telling you, the man's, and I ain't the only one. I've seen him. I've referred other people to connect with him on LinkedIn and reach out to him. He's not quite so accessible now. I mean, he is 89, and his eyes bother him sometimes now, and it's hard for him to read and text and just deal with the computer world. But he is out there still. He's still on this 5th step. He mastered it. He's mastering it all the way to the end. He's not going to stop. As long as he can do it, he's going to do it. He's not just going to choose to quit. If he ever has to quit, it's going to be because he has to quit. But he's been mentoring us and friends with us. We've had lunches, many conversations after he was 79. Because remember, he's 89 today. He's still going. He's still got a newsletter he puts out on LinkedIn. I see him on there. He's on Facebook liking some stuff I'm sharing. He's a great, great example. Most people can't wait to retire, meaning quit. They can't wait to quit whatever they're doing. They count the days, the months, the weeks, and the years down. They can't wait till they retire. Then guess what they do? They wait to die. They don't have any purpose after they retire. Most of them who couldn't wait to retire were not living out their purpose when they were working. That's why they couldn't wait to retire. They were doing something they didn't want to be doing, so they couldn't wait to stop. I understand that. But if you've climbed these steps and you're on the 5th step, you worked on control of self, you worked on character development, you worked on competency development, the way that Rhea and I shared with you in this series, then that means you're doing something you want to be doing. So you got to get through the first 3 steps to not be the person who just can't wait to retire because you hate what you're doing. And I'm telling you, there's so many people who hate what they're doing. And what's crazy is they act like they don't have a choice. They've had a choice their entire life. If they ain't exercised that choice and made certain choices, there ain't nothing I can do about that. But they've had a choice. Somebody been in a career 10 years, they had 10 years they could find something else to do. They could grow and develop themselves instead of partying on the weekend or escaping on the weekend or golfing or fishing or hunting. Yeah, they might like to do that stuff, but if they're miserable the other 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, that's a rough life to live. And I lived it for a long time. Rhea and I often talking about, we see people, man, it's so rough. So many people, they ain't happy doing what they do, but they keep doing it. They working hard for somebody else's dream and ain't doing nothing about their dream. A lot of them working so hard for somebody else's dream, they don't even have a dream. They look at you like you stupid for even talking about a dream, like they could have a dream. They work hard and then they escape, meaning whatever they do after work, during the week, on the weekends, holidays, vacations, whatever it is, they work hard, they work long, doing something they don't want to do. Sometimes they're miserable doing what they're doing. Sometimes they like what they're doing, but they don't like the boss or they don't like the coworkers. They keep doing it. Or they like what they're doing. They like the boss and the coworkers. They don't like the pay. They think they ought to be getting paid more. Hey, they could start their own business, but they don't. And a lot of times, Rhea and I, when we ride, because we drive a lot all over this country, and we'll just be talking, and I think about how miserable we used to be. We didn't realize we were miserable until we got to doing the stuff we're talking to you about now, what we actually wanted to do. We've been the happiest we ever been since then. 2012 for me, 2013 for Rhea. Because we quit playing the game that most people play. A game they don't want to play. Where they're miserable their whole life. I won't never have another boss because I don't want a boss. If you want a boss, that's fine. Some people do. I don't want a boss. I want to do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it, however I want to do it, with whoever I want to do it with. That's me. I finally got to that point through growth. Remember, I've been reading every day for 17 years. But it didn't take me but reading every day for about 4 or 5 years, implementing and applying what I was learning, till I didn't have to be at work at 7 o'clock every day. I didn't have to work weekends when somebody else wanted me to, and I had something else to do. I didn't have to work late in the evenings and miss my son's ball game and all that sort of stuff. I set my schedule, not somebody else. I ain't going through the rat race round and around doing just monotonous for me, what it was mostly for a lot of years early on, especially just physical work. I was just a human machine to serve somebody else's dream. And you may be doing that right now. And if you're doing it, I highly recommend do it to the best of your ability. I also highly recommend, if any of this stuff I've been saying the last 5-10 minutes resonates with you, climb these steps. If you're truly climbing these steps, you're going to lead yourself to tons of other resources that's going to help you grow and develop yourself. When we talk about blue collar workers, I see so many blue collar workers. They may be working for $50,000 to $150,000 a year. If they grow and develop their character enough that they can start their own business and be willing to sacrifice and dedicate the same amount of effort, hard work, endless hours to building their own business, they could make millions of dollars. They could build a team. They could take off if they needed to, be with their family, or needed a break. Or they could grow their business and sell it. And then go do what they really, really, really want to do in life, which might not pay them anything. What they may want to do, what you may want to do is something for free. Like Rhea does a lot, like I do a lot. I'm doing it now for free. I guarantee you, if I was working the grind I used to be working, it'd be real, real hard for me to do this. But I eventually got there. Little bitty baby steps, one at a time, one foot in front of the other. Read, learn, apply, read, learn, apply. Sometimes unlearn, relearn. A lot of that unlearning and relearning. Rhea says this is what self-realization is all about. You're in control. You decide. Life is so short in the big picture. That's why we talk about this a lot. We set our life up so that you can't tell if we're on vacation or if we're working or if we're retired. It's all the same. Some people say, oh, it must be nice. It is now. Used to just be a dream. Used to be a dream when I was working a lot of hours, traveling all over the place. I don't just love Rhea. I like her. I want to spend life with her. I don't want to get old and we ain't never been together because she worked one job and I worked another one. Like when I was a consultant, I was gone all week. And when I was home, I was gone about 12, 13 hours a day. At least when I was doing that, I still got some weekends. Before that, I was working. When I was working hourly, I worked all the time, especially in my young years, 7 days a week, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. That ain't no life. But there's a lot of people living it and blaming someone else because they have to. They don't have to. They're choosing to. If you live in a rough life or you live in a life you don't want and you wish you could have some other kind of life, that's why I do this podcast. That's why I write books. That's why I create YouTube content. That's why Rhea does the same thing. That's why there's hundreds of thousands of other people who do the same thing. But we can't do it for you. But if you're working on step 5, you're helping us do it for other people. That's why I'm so fired up and I'm telling you these stories. I want you to succeed at step number 5. I want you to commit. I want you to have a contribution to service over time. You may be just putting your foot on this 5th step, but I want you to keep it planted on there. Rhea says to create legacy, the cause must be greater than yourself. The cause must be greater than yourself. And so you may be thinking, well, what does the life you described, Mac, was this good life for you? It is a good life for me. But it's also a good life for you because I'm growing and developing myself to help you grow and develop yourself, hoping that you'll become one of those people that do the same thing for other people. What matters is how you're being while you're being the way that you're being. Like selfish people. I'm selfish. I'm extremely selfish. But how am I being while I'm being selfish? I'm selfish because I want to help people. And every time I help somebody, it makes me feel good. And I want to feel good, so that makes me selfish. How am I being when I'm being selfish? I'm being extremely helpful. That's how I'm being. So nobody minds that I'm selfish because I'm helpful while I'm being selfish. Rhea shares a quote at the end by A.B. Wambach. The quote goes, "Leader is not a title that the world gives you. It's an offering that you give the world." Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We got 4 more episodes on this 5th step coming. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.